Hello everyone, and I think today's time to talk about the latest change that snuck in the competitive league patch notes. So most people are talking about the autofill being removed, which is kind of not removed, they're just forcing you to go autofill. So I'm exactly not sure how that's going to go down. We really have to see how that plays out in the game. I think the bigger change that snuck through is the change that now surrender at 15 minutes does not have to be unanimous. This has many different implications to the game, and I do believe this is a bad change in the long run. I'll try to explain that in a minute, but first we're gonna watch the reasoning and read the Reddit post and listen to the freak talking about it.
So my understanding is they have done a lot of investigation in the data here, and it's again, I'm making this up because I don't remember. It was something like a failed 4-to-1 surrender vote in ranked had a 97% loss rate or something. Again, I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a surprisingly high rate of obviously a non-zero number of games would have been turned around and won, but it was oh, this is an extremely high number where I saw it and I was as the guy who says no on the surrender vote, I get it, I accept. And again, my win rate might go down 3% or something as a result.
So as he says his win rate might go down, that's one of the key points. That's one of the interesting points in this situation. So what I do believe is going to be happening here, and I do believe the data is completely tarnished, because that 3% is definitely not accurate, because a lot of those games, if you ever play games, and I play, just so I don't get people in the chat like I've had on Twitter discussions earlier today, you don't know what it's like, you've never played that, I've played everything, I've played every single ELO, I've been playing this game for a really long time, for over a decade. Every year I get multiple challengers. This year I peaked rank 50 on EUS with a very low impact champion, aka vel'koz. So I do believe I have a firm grasp on the game and how it works and its inner workings. So we're going to discuss this. So first of all, first and minor point is the lowering of win rate, and especially of the bad laning phase and bad early game champs. The champions that don't have high impact early game are going to deplete even more because they don't get to play the game, right? If you felt like you were being a spectator, so far you're going to feel like being a spectator even more now from now on. So the data says on 4-to-1, 97% games are lost. And I firmly believe that a lot of those are basically attributable to people giving up early or even taking matters into their own hands, which is ending the game on purpose, losing the game on purpose, becoming this self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is prevalent in even highest of ELOs. I'll just show you an example of a challenger game I had, and then that exactly happens. People tend to do this, and even at the highest level. So now imagine what people can do with low game understanding. So here's just a random clip we had the other day. We played a game, our Hecarim got invaded, died, we started falling behind, and then he died twice on purpose. This one is the most obvious death on purpose, because he just does this. And this is a challenger Hecarim, this is a challenger game. It's hilarious that people do this. It's actually super funny that people can actually do this in Challenger, and that is the precisely mentality, because the game was 5-3 when he started really trolling. So it's not like we were doomed and horribly behind, and by the time that 15-minute mark comes in for surrender, a lot of people have already given up mentally and they're just waiting for 15 FF, right? That's the whole syndrome of 15 FF mentality of people who give a first blood. I even made a joke on Twitter, because I've been arguing with people about this, because people don't understand how this is going to be really, really bad for the game. So I made a joke that you should be able to surrender after giving first blood. The team that gives a first blood should be able to surrender, because playing 400 gold behind is unplayable, untenable, pure torture, right? So it's just pretty ridiculous how shallow an understanding a lot of these players have. Now, I don't think the number is absurdly high and you're gonna win every single game, like everything is winnable. No, but I do believe it's far higher than 3% if people decided to play. And I do believe in the long term this decision is only gonna promote people to give up more. They even state so in this. We've tested lower surrender times in normals for several patches, and impacts me so slightly increased surrender frequency leading to slightly lower average game times, which this has been the steady trend since early seasons in League of Legends. Games have been shortening. We believe this change is to allow teams more agency choosing which matches to play out, more selectivism, which means more people giving up on the unfavorable scenarios. You thought 49% win rate players on your team were bad, and you dodged that, and you don't want to play it out, and you quit. Watch for this. I do believe this is one of the sneakiest changes that most people are not paying attention to, and I do believe it's going to completely lower the quality of games. So they're essentially trading quality for quantity of games. Now, you might not notice this, in the next week or even a month. But this is a long-term change, just like the earlier one was. Because I do believe there is no reason to have 15-minute FF at all in the game. The only reason we needed it in earlier seasons is because there was no mechanism to decide whether a player has left the game. So the only reason was implemented so people could avoid early games when it was absolutely horrible and somebody leaves. Now that the game can actually understand, oh, somebody left, you can surrender at 10 because he's been gone for 8 minutes. He's going to come back 7 levels down. Probably not very playable, right? Unless you're Giga Fit. So you might want to surrender those. And that's why we have that system. And now because you have that system, you don't need a surrender at 15. When you press accept, you choose to play the game. So I would completely remove the early FF and leave it at 20 minutes. And I believe in doing so, you would counteract all of these effects which we're describing right now in this whole loser mentality shtick, which has been plaguing solo queue for a really long time. So while reading the Reddit thread about this, the comments are mixed. Some people want this because they want to play more, but on Reddit, some people tend to think things a little bit through long term, so they're finding like poking holes in this problem of not being able to surrender, and they're saying like there is potential for self-fulfilling prophecies, how it's going to discourage players and all that. So there's valid criticism all around, which is absolutely correct in my estimation. Anyway, we found this question. Serious question. I'm one of the players who never surrenders at 15, but to me this data indicates the flaw in the game. I've been playing League since beta. I'm an old man now, but the game used to be different in one critical venue. Early days of League, there was no hostage holding because the enemy was so far ahead of the game. The game seemed unwinnable. They're capable of just ending the game. So the question is valid. Why are so many games given up right now? While before they weren't really given up. There was no FF mentality. But this postulation is completely and absurdly wrong because games lasted so long back in the day. Just having a Nivea or Ziggs on a team could stall out the game extra 15 minutes and enemies couldn't do anything about it. The Baron buff wasn't as strong, the Dragon control wasn't as strong, there was way less tools to end the game. It's just players in solo queue are bad. They don't know how to end the games. So even if they have absurd leads, they don't know how to close out a game. That is the issue. So you would expect to see a different trend. You would expect the games to last longer than in earlier days. But simply giving the possibility of an earlier surrender vote has negatively impacted the game in a very, very profound way, which is not felt immediately but in the long term. It fosters the culture of loser mentality, of giving up, of like trying to lose as fast as possible so you can play another game. Specifically, what Riot wants to do is the problem, giving people opportunity to pick and choose games. That's exactly what dodging is, and that's exactly what Riot doesn't want to remove right now, because they want people to be able to pick and choose games. And I stand by the same exact reasoning. I've made a video on dodging previously, if you don't want to watch it. Explains in depth why you should never dodge a game. It has some very, very nicely laid out arguments, so I implore you to watch that, especially if you disagree. I want you to watch that and try to give some criticism on it. So yeah, my prediction at the end of the day, this will go through because I do believe the majority of the community wants it. It will not be reverted because it's a power that once attained, much like dodging, will never be given back because community, once they get used to it, to the new technology, they never go back. That's just how things are. People get adapted to it, accustomed to it. So in the long run, I do believe the game quality is going to be horrible. In the future, maybe you can quote me on this, like later on, like maybe in a half a year, in 2 years, the game quality is going to be way worse because people are going to be way more of this loser mentality and giving up games that are completely winnable. As per usual, I hope you guys give some criticism, some interesting thoughts, points, why this is good, why this is bad. Leave everything in the comments and let's have a nice civil discussion. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.